All right, guys, welcome back. Today, I really want to talk on a topic that has been on my mind a lot recently. As many of you know, if you've been following me, I am both a developer and a business owner. I own Cam Software LLC, and we help people with their mobile and website needs. And recently, I was talking to somebody about the state of mobile development in 2026. I started my career doing React Native development, which is really hybrid mobile development, but I really enjoy native development. I think it's way more fun. It's way easier to maintain long term. And we kind of got into this discussion of, is hybrid development dead in 2026? Should we even consider using stuff like React Native or Flutter or whatever else is out there these days in mobile development? Should we not just transition to using native development, especially with some of these AI tools that allow us to maintain both of the repos at the exact same time, but following their own standards and conventions? And so I had an idea. So I guess I should preface this by saying a couple of weeks ago, I was working on something specific to our website, to the campsoftwarellc.com website. And I decided, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and make a mobile app to accompany it. And I decided to take it upon me and build out the two native applications. So I built out one for iOS and one for Android instead of going down my usual default route of using React Native. There's a few things that I learned from this experience. The first one is hybrid development is definitely not dead in 2026. There are still a lot of use cases in 2026 for hybrid development. And one of the big ones that I noticed was simply just the amount of tokens that you use up when you are creating these two separate repos at the exact same time. Now, let me explain. The app that I was working on wasn't that big of a deal. It was simply going into our database, grabbing information, and displaying it onto the screen. In fact, the very basic bare bones of the app is login and see information from the database. Like that's it. In 2.5 hours of trying to build this out, ended up using all of my tokens on the Cloud Code Max account. Now, I only pay for the $100 version. I don't pay for the $200 version, so I guess it's like 5x or whatever, right? But it was so fast in me utilizing those tokens that I actually was stalled in some of the development work that I needed to continue with. So for instance, as soon as that completed and it finished creating the basic bare bones stuff that I needed to do, I found bugs and I found issues that I needed to address, but because I didn't have any tokens, I couldn't go back in and fix it. Now, I'm going to leave that problem aside for now because that's not really an issue for me. I can always continue paying for more usage, or I can just switch over to Codex. It's not that much of a problem for me. But it does kind of prove a point in 2026, even though it is feasible and a lot easier than it used to be in the past to maintain two repos. The amount of tokens you use is still double, right? It is the exact equivalent of using two separate agents to create two different things. Even though it might be the exact same overarching project or the exact same overarching information, it's still two things. In fact, when I was looking through how Cloud Code was creating this, I saw it spin up 3 separate agents. I can't remember what the 3 agents were, but I do remember that the first 2 were iOS and Android, and I can't remember what exactly the third one was. And within these 2 agents, it created a series of sub-agents that then had their own tasks and things that it was going to create. So the token usage you use when you're trying to maintain or create or update these repos does double instantly. So take that into account if you decide to go down this route. Second, and I think probably still just as relevant today as it was 10 years ago with hybrid development, the simplicity of having one repo is still larger and still makes more sense from a financial and business perspective than having the 2. Now, as a developer, I can make an argument as to why it would be better to just have the 2 repos separately for a multitude of different reasons. And I know I have plenty of friends out there that can either agree or disagree with that notion. As a business owner, as someone who wants to make sure that we're spending our time wisely and our money wisely, having that one repo is still the best way to go. First, if I had decided to do it in React Native from the very beginning, I probably wouldn't have eaten up as many tokens. The testing on iOS and Android would have been the exact same, regardless of me having built it natively over having built it using React Native. There's no difference in testing. I'm still going to be testing for the exact same things. Then, the amount of tokens that I would have used would have been significantly lower. So instead of it spinning up 3 separate agents with a series of different sub-agents for each agent, I would have probably only had one agent with a series of different sub-agents. These tokens probably wouldn't have gotten me to my limit as quickly as it did using these or trying to create these 2 repos. Another thing that I forgot and I actually just remembered is this didn't happen to me just one time. This actually happened to me 2 times in 2 separate events. I did part of my coding in one session, one point during my day, And then the next day I did another session with other stuff that I needed to fix. And in both cases, I ended up eating up most of my usage, if not all of it, in just a matter of a few hours. It's still beneficial for you to just have that one repo, especially if it's going to be something quick and easy. Now, I think most people who understand mobile tech and understand the benefits of hybrid versus native could probably sit here, and I think there's a lot of people that could have sat there with me and said, you know what, it's still not worth it to build natively, especially if it's going to be something that simple. And I'm going to tell you here and say that's definitely true based off of my personal experience. I don't believe you should go out there and build 2 native repos just for the sake of saying that you're able to do so. I think if you have the ability to do it quickly and you have limited resources or limited time, just build it with a hybrid framework. It'll just make it easier, it'll make it faster for you, and you'll save yourself some money and probably some time. So go down that route. Now, that is not to say that you should just move into hybrid development completely. I don't ever want that to be an argument. I don't believe that there's ever such a thing as to when hybrid development is always going to be better than native. And just likewise, I don't believe that native is always going to be better than hybrid. There are still very much real case scenarios where you should be using one over the other. Now, going back to my example, me just grabbing information from a database, it's a pretty no-brainer. I should have just gone ahead and created a React Native project. And for most apps out there that are just grabbing information, just getting basic details, just displaying simple data, just go hybrid. You don't really need to make this complex. Make it simple, make it cheap, make it easy. However, if you are making a mobile application and it does require more hardware intensive tools, or if you're building a mobile app and it is using stuff within the phone's device itself, like Bluetooth or GPS or Wi-Fi, those are better candidates for native development. Not in all cases. I know particularly from my React Native experience that there are some things you can still do with some NPM packages and it'll work perfectly for you. And in other cases, you just might want to have more flexibility and more say in what you need to do with these things. And so it'll be better to just build it natively and you'll be able to do whatever you want. So at the end of the day, I think what all this has taught me is really just, if you know you can do it simply and quickly with a React Native app, if it's just going to be something data driven, just go the hybrid route. You don't really need to get fancy in 2026 with this. Maybe in the future, we'll have more efficient models that will allow us to do things faster. But today, as the way things currently are, it's still more beneficial to just separate those out and say, this is where I'm drawing the line between my hybrid development versus my native development. And that's okay. I don't think there's really that big of a difference unless you really just want to say that you were able to build something natively over hybrid online. But I'm going to sit here and tell you that you really shouldn't spend that time. Your time is better spent doing other things. And as a business owner, looking back, I probably wouldn't sit here and say that that was wasted time for me, because I got to learn and now I get to explain to you guys and anybody else who wants this knowledge firsthand. If you are a business person, if you are someone who's building out a business right now or wants to start a business here in the near future, don't discount the opportunity of using hybrid development for your mobile application. It's going to still be a great asset to you and you'll still be able to maintain it long term. I won't sit here and tell you that there aren't limitations one way or the other, but what I will tell you is, if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of budget, who doesn't have a lot of time, who doesn't have a lot of resources, then your best bet is still to go hybrid. And even if you did hire someone with AI tools, unless they're paying for the 20x1, the $200 Claude Code version, it really isn't that big of a deal. But I'm going to tell you, as someone who speaks with business owners daily, cost is a pretty big factor. And so $100 a month for 5 developers costing $500 is going to be way better than spending $1,000 a month. And if they can get a very similar app going with just it being a hybrid app instead of it being native, isn't going to make that much of a difference. As developers, we tend to have this idea that we're always right because we work directly with the tools. And so we understand where it goes right and where it goes wrong. And as a developer, I get it. I understand that. I have fallen victim to that. So it's not like I'm saying here that it doesn't happen. But as a business owner, and I think I'm kind of preaching a little bit more to any developers that might be listening to this, is you have to understand that from a business perspective, we can't just always be spending money on these tools without us reassuring that we're going to receive a return on investment right away. Or maybe we do want to put that money into it. I know a lot of companies right now are really pushing into using artificial intelligence and they want to invest the money, but then they have developers on their team that are hesitant into using artificial intelligence in their workflow. And so even though it's a bad example, say there's 5 developers and 3 of them aren't using it, that $300 is kind of lost to the business and they don't like that. So what I'm trying to say is, like, from a business perspective, it really doesn't make a difference which way you go. From a developer perspective, you can make a lot of decisions and you can have a lot of different opinions as to which one is better versus the other. But at the end of the day, whoever's paying for that service, whoever's paying that salary is the one who needs to make that decision, and you need to be cautious with how you're going to be spending your money. And if you'd like more information on this and see how I might be able to help you with this new knowledge, please contact me. I dropped my link below. I also do offer a refer program. So if you refer anybody to me and they sign, I will personally send you a $100 e-gift card. So please make the wise business decisions for your company. As a developer, please make wise decisions that are going to impact you long term as well. And make sure that you're always focusing on the important things in your app.